here with such celebrities?
I have no idea.
Right on, we are going to get going. Welcome everyone to the first expert panel of the Imperious Expo. I am your host, Shango, host of the Shaping Fire podcast. If you like listening to the top experts in the industry talk about the passion that we all share in cannabis, I encourage you to tune into the podcast. You can pick up flyers near the door. I also want to let you know that Dope Magazine is sponsoring a party tonight on the roof of the Clarendon Hotel. That starts at 6 o'clock. Think about it. Sunshine, your favorite cannabis professional friends, and heat. Sounds pretty good. So that's on the roof of the Clarendon Hotel at 6 o'clock. This panel for the next 50 minutes is establishing your brand's identity. I'm very pleased to welcome Celeste Miranda, Amy Donahue, and Dashita Dawson. So these are merely highlights of each speaker's bio. I encourage you to Google them or talk to them after the panel to find out more. First, let's see, from stage left, Amy Donahue is co-founder of Hybrid Social, a cannabis brand agency specializing in organic social media, customer relationships, and co-branding. She's based here in Phoenix. To her right is Celeste Miranda, founder and CEO of the Cannabis Marketing Lab. The full-service agency's specialties include product launches, web design, and social media promotion, and she is based in California. And to her right, Dashita Dawson is president of Mary Jane Marketing with an expertise in building brand equity. She has an MBA from Rutgers Business School and an undergraduate in molecular biology from Princeton, which I had to mention. She's also president of the Southwest chapter of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. Thank you three for joining us today.
Thank you.
So the format is pretty casual today. The goal is we're going to present the panelists with a question. I'm going to start with a different one of them each time, and then give all three of them an opportunity to comment on the topic. And then we'll just go through and see how many we get through in the next 50 minutes. We will also have about 10 minutes for questions at the end. So with that, let's start with you, Amy, for the first one. So Amy, so many cannabis companies simply come up with a name that sounds good to them, and then they just go for it, only to find out later that it has some problems. What advice would you give a new cannabis company so that they can increase the likelihood that they choose an effective brand name right from the start?
Hire a professional. That's it. We can't brand ourselves based on what our personal passions are or things that are too close to home, because if we have to explain our logo to somebody, then you're missing a lot of your audience. So always hire a professional, especially in this industry. We know what the trends are, but if you do it too personal, again, nobody's going to get it. You have to appeal to a broad market.
Great, Celeste.
I would add on there to remember to keep it catchy. That's our kind of term in the industry. And you make it memorable when you make it catchy. So kind of keep a catchy name. A lot of times if it's two words, the first word and the second word starting with the same letter works real well for something like that. Also, in addition to that, remember to make it trademarkable, if that's a word. You remember to make it something that you cannot trademark just a typical word. And that's why Clorox is Clorox, but yet when somebody says bleach, you think of Clorox. So keep that in mind too when you're coming up.
I think just to piggyback the trademark piece, I think you have to start with doing a full search. I'm a digital marketer first and foremost, so I always look, can I find the www? If you can't find it, you probably need to start over again. I look for the social media handles, because believe it or not, in addition to trademarking, you run into the problem of even being able to build your brand equity if you can't secure the platforms that you need to that best fit your name. And sometimes when you do abbreviate, it can be very tricky. And I would say even the experts sometimes don't make the right decisions. I myself named my company Mary Jane Marketing. I get confused with Team Mary Jane all the time. And as we fight for digital voice, for share of voice, they probably are getting confused for Mary Jane Marketing. So I'm actually looking to change my own name to MJM Consulting. That's heard it first, so. But I mean, the point is, it's a learning thing, and in the cannabis industry, people use cannabis or canna terms, and you can be more clever, like hybrid social, right? I mean, you can be very catchy and still hint at the fact that you're a cannabis affiliate.
By the way, I paid for Hybrid Social. I did not create that. I hired a professional brand to do that for me.
Yeah,
So that's thank you, Amy. That is a great segue. So I also agree that the best way to go is to hire a professional, because if you are trying to name your cannabis company, it may be the first company that you've ever named. And you have your own limited experience. However, if you're using a brand strategist, they hopefully have at least a couple dozen naming processes under their belt. And so that leads me to the next question, where let's say that for whatever reason the entrepreneur is not going to hire someone, and they've decided that their executive team is going to do it themselves. Now, all four of us as brand strategists, we've got our favorite exercises that we like to run our clients through to help them come to generate ideas. So would you each share one of your preferred exercises that you run through with a client to help them generate names?
Trying to think. I know, to help them generate. I would say first and foremost to try to combine what you do with a word, again, that is trademark, and if you can find those two segments, I think that you've hit the jackpot. Because again, if you can find an identifier along with something that is unique, I think that's right in the alley that you want to be. And, activities to create this brainstorming, I think it's just talking a client. What we do is just talk a client through, and pretty soon you'll see that they answer their own question. And it's just leading them to do it. And so, talk it out. You guys can have these conversations with friends, with family, with anybody, and talk through who you are. Who is your consumer? What are you doing? And before you know it, through your own discussions, you'll come up with your brainstorming of the best name.
I have to say what she said, right? I love that. But we basically take that same thing and we have tried to create a form that allows us to kind of intake our customer or client with at least that baseline of information. And then we as a group do brainstorming ourselves, and a lot of the exercise, believe it or not, is about literally digitally stalking our clients and the potential customer base that they're trying to reach. And that way I would say my team is culturally hacking. We're trying to figure out what are the nuances about the particular target market that will lead us to the right words that will incite the purchase ultimately.
One of the things that I always recommended to clients when I was in the brand game was don't go with necessarily your first choice. Come out with 4 or 5 that you like. Like, I like number 1, I could do number 2 or number 3 or number 4. Get 5 that you could totally decide on and then choose from those. Going from the first one that you get to that you like, it might be great that day, but to create a company name that's got staying power, you're going to do much better if you choose one from a group of 5 that you're already in love with all 5 of them. So let's start now with the other end, Nishita. So a company, so we already just kind of established how to potentially go about coming up with a name. So let's talk a little bit about logos. So a company's brand mark says a lot about the company, right? And it plays a big role in how a company responds to them. Would you name a common mistake that you see in logos and how to avoid it?
So I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm gonna keep it real. Liking somebody else's style, if you will, is a common mistake. Thinking that, and especially in the cannabis industry, because it's been underground for nearly 100 years, the first pick of the lit is usually biting off of a brand that already exists. I can name a few, but I won't put you on blast. But I would say that ultimately that's just, you're waiting to get a cease and desist. We already saw Girl Scouts kind of doing that with the name of a strain. So that's the biggest mistake I see. I need to get someone come to me with a brand logo that looks almost exactly like something else, and it's a play off of it, and it's so cute and it's so clever for not real life business, so it's one of those things that I would say stay away from biting someone else's style.
Well, logos, it's interesting because my firm did a brand study a couple of years ago, that when it was a big topic of conversation about to leave or not to leave in a logo. And, you know, there was so much discussion on do not leave, to keep it mainstream, we've got to get accepted by the mainstream, you know, this and that. And so we did a study that we did it for a company, we did a trial logo that had a leaf. We did a trial logo that did not. We put the product into the dispensaries, did all the packaging design on it and everything else. And believe it or not, the package with the leaf, although it was an abstract leaf, sold almost 3 times more. So, when it comes to a logo, you know, I understand the industry wants to go mainstream, and I'm all for that. But also keep in mind that your logo cannot be totally off from who you are or what you do. And try as much as you can to say who you are via optics when you create your logo. You know, another problem we see with that is colors. A lot of people will use colors on the color wheel that are right next to each other, which is technically a very bad thing to do as well when it comes to a consumer visually grabbing what's off of shelf space. Remember to try to use the colors that are opposite on the color wheel, on the color spectrum. And we see that works much better as well in consumer sales.
One, don't use fiber. When you pay $5 for something, your brand looks like it's worth $5. And I understand that not everybody has a budget right up front to brand themselves, but you really do get what you pay for in this industry. I kind of go a little bit more towards the mainstream when I work with brands. I like stuff that's more tongue-in-cheek. A good example, I'm from New York as well, but Howard Stern, when he was on FM, he had to edit himself, but it was more fun to me than hearing him go all out on Sirius. So when you can hold stuff back and be more clever, then say, hey, we're a cannabis company. I kind of like that better. I kind of like the creativity of that. And no offense to anybody, but I kind of think the leaf is easy.
And I want to reiterate that, you know, during the last question we mentioned going with a professional, and it's almost always a good idea to go with a professional, even if you just want them to rubber stamp the name that you already think that you're in love with. But when it comes to a graphic designer, for goodness sakes, go with somebody who's a professional. Because once your brand mark is in the market, you can't take that back. And if you're starting a company that is maybe not short on funds, but at least let's say conservative on how you're spending your capital, that is a good place to spend your money because you know, if you want to come out as a quality product, if you want it to feel elegant, hell, even if you want to go very like kind of edgy and punk or rock about it, you still want it to be a clean design that really stands itself alone by itself in the market. And you're really only going to get that with an accomplished graphic designer. And also, since we've mentioned having an expert to help you both with naming your company and with choosing and building your logo, I would say there's a good case to have those be two different people. Very often the person who's helping you name may also have some graphic design chops, but the reverse really isn't as strong to have the graphic designer help you with the naming aspect because, you know, the people who play vocabulary and design at this level, they're different folks. Would you agree? Yeah.
Can I also add that when you are first starting off and you have nothing, keep it simple, right? Because ultimately, brands and logos go through iterations through the years. Just look at NBC's, what is it, the bird? I love that because when you show it through the years, it has transformed. Even the Target bullseye, I used to be an executive for Target, it has transformed. Believe it or not, it's really just a matter of inches or millimeters, but it's transformed as well. And so you want to be able to have iterations, and then you can have professionals like ourselves come on top of things that you maybe started off with, and we can remix it into something that's a bit more elevated.
Plus, rebranding gives you more attention. You can have a party or some kind of rebranding launch, which is going to get you more business.
It might even pick you up media attention too. I mean, you remember when Pepsi rebranded their logo? My gosh, they were everywhere in all the brand trade journals for a while, just for simply changing their logo. So now we're going to start with Celeste in the middle there. So Celeste, there are so many players in each cannabis niche, whether it's extraction or retail, that competition is really severe. What's a strategy that you like for setting a company apart from the rest of the pack as far as the brand experience goes?
I think that also has to do with demographics, and where you're located. A lot of these products can't cross state lines. So keep that in mind. If you've got a product in California that you're launching versus a product in New York, those, to me, that's a bit of a different brand. Now, if you're thinking about licensing that down the road, you also have to keep that in mind because you're going to cross state lines that way. But, in the initial branding, I would definitely say that look at your demographic. That has to do with who your consumer is, because that also has to do with your branding and your branding methods. My firm has over 40 clients in 4 different countries, and that alone is a branding huge nightmare because you're branding so many different ways, not only for a state territory now, but a country. And everyone is just very, very, very different. So look at where you're at as well when you're branding, and play to that consumer. You have your consumer in New York is very, very serious, fast-paced, that sort of thing. California is much more casual, laid back. Keep that in mind, especially because remember, with most of these products, you're confined within your state. So keep that in mind when you're branding as well.
When you're branding, especially online, because that's what I do, is to show the personality of the company in your online presence. So your Facebook page or your Instagram account, if you're a fun company like mine, a lot of that voice comes through. So it's about, like Celeste said, knowing your target audience. Are you selling to someone like me who's a Gen X woman, or are you selling to a gentleman who's a millennial?
Cool. And I would say if you're really, really new to the industry, you're like, what the hell is my target audience? What I spend a lot of time doing with my clients is really identifying the white space opportunities. I did that in corporate America. I did that for larger companies. And that way I would say, so try to set up the company for success is to actually look where there is the best opportunity, where there isn't a competition and there's actually a need. And I think once you fulfill the consumer need, it goes back to everything that you're saying, and you're showing it in a fun way that's relatable to the particular demographic, then you're set up for success.
Well said. I think it's one of the interesting things about cannabis, from what we've seen so far. The cannabis sales cycle, it's not so much about getting new customers to come to cannabis, because people come to cannabis on their own. The cannabis sales cycle is, do you have weed? Yes, sold. So really what it's about is competing against the other folks that are on the shelf next to you. And so be really aware about who's already in the market and what they look like, and differentiate yourself from them. And think about who you are, who you want to be in comparison to them. Because in the end, there might only be 4 or 5 different companies on the shelf next to you, and they are the folks that you're immediately competing against.
And one more thing on that too is that I find that a lot of my clients who come to me or even call me about people are thinking about launching brands, they haven't even taken the time to go into a dispensary, hang out, just see what people are pulling off the shelves, see what they're saying, when they pull it off the shelf. Just hang out for a minute in some dispensaries and see for yourself, why are they pulling out this product? Talk to the people there a little bit, ask them. People tell you more than you think if you just ask. And ask them, what is it about that product that you're buying, what made you purchase it? And you'll see that they tell you. And definitely then take that and find a unique selling proposition. And just twist yours a little more to the research that you do, and that you find.
I'm going to double down on that. Bud tenders are a unique lot. There's some things that you want to take their advice on and some things that you don't. But one thing that they are experts on are what people buy. And I can think of no other thing for all of us as cannabis entrepreneurs to ask your bud tender than, which one of these products do people pick up? Which one, seems to visually excite them? And then is there a product that visually excites them, but then when they read, the ingredients or the strength or how it's used or whatever, then they're less interested. This is incredibly valuable information. The bud tenders can be a focus group for you that you can't get anywhere else. And honestly, a lot of people don't give bud tenders the respect that they can deserve on this topic. And so if you ask them for their opinion, you'll get a lot of opinion, and it's all free and to your benefit. Let's see here. So Celeste hit on this a little bit, and let's start with Amy here. So a lot of the entrepreneurs at the state level, are looking to eventually go national. Either they want to take their company national, or they're looking to get bought out and put together with a larger brand. What kind of advice would each of you give to your client who needs to be competitive now at the state level in order to get their revenues up so that they don't run out of capital, but they also want to eye the bigger national market that they're not really playing in yet, but they want to make sure that they're in a position with their brand that they can get bought out and then put into a portfolio with a bunch of other companies or brands?
First, hire a trademark attorney right as soon as you can. Even if you're going to be local for another 2 or 5 years, you need to be trademarked ahead of time. But second would be, if you're creating a great digital buzz, once you go national, people are already familiar. In this industry, I can't tell you how many people I said, oh, I saw you in Vegas, because it is a small industry still. But if you are active online and you have a great website and you come to things like these, create that buzz as soon as you can. Go to every networking group, whatever you can to get your name out there locally. It's going to be no sweat when you go national.
I would say to, again, try to make yourself as unique as possible. One brand that did that really well was Lola. And they made, as far as their branding, their look unique, their colors recognizable, things like that. And when somebody purchases you as a company or merges or whatever with what you built, they're purchasing the brand power that you've created, the recognition. So just work really hard on creating that uniqueness, that recognition, and then also don't forget the element of quality and customer service, because no one is going to purchase or merge with you if you have bad customer service or your quality isn't up to par. So keep that in mind too. It's not all just about the marketing up front and the branding. Don't forget about the back door too.
And I would add that 3 different things, I guess. The first is that an educated consumer is going to be your best consumer. That's the person that's going to bring more people back to the table. So in addition to really crafting what your product launch strategy is locally, you want to leverage the digital space in a global way, and you're really looking to provide education, which is global, and means for advocacy, which is also global. The second thing is, I feel like when you think about a national strategy versus a local one, you're looking at how are you hacking into Main Street. So yes, for the people who are cannabis consumers, absolutely, it is the case that cannabis sells itself. But if you are a non-cannabis consumer, meaning you have not used it in 20 years, and you're the person who maybe just your girlfriend who's still using it, or if you're someone who uses it as a caregiver and you're realizing that it worked for my mom or it worked for my son and now I want to see how it works for me, you're not necessarily just going to be sold on cannabis. And so you want to make sure at the very least you're reaching that population, and I think it goes right back to educating them. They want to be educated. They'll become brand evangelists for you if you do educate them and say, hey, can you do what you did earlier and tell my friend too? And ultimately that's how you wind up proliferating that following and that reach on a national level. That was 2 things, but I think that's enough.
That's right. I'm going right back to you. So while we're talking about expanding from the state level to the national level, like locally, like Amy said, you're going to be participating in all of your local events, your meetups, events like this for the the Arizona market. And go to these things, talk to people, and establish yourself and your reputation for both you and your product at the state level. But we're all looking for, hopefully, getting either bought out or going nationally at some point, because that's where the real serious dollars are. And so that brings us back to digital, which all three of you are experts in. And so I want to kind of toss this out there that one of the things that I find that the top level cannabis companies are doing that others are not, they're creating their own original content. And so many cannabis entrepreneurs, they don't have time for social media, they're busy, and so they just take whatever news story is going around that day and they just repost that. And if that's all that happens, people end up hiding you because they're seeing those same articles everywhere else. And so, what I always tell people is, take pictures of things that are happening in your company's world that gives you a sense of authenticity and creates a feeling that there are real, actual humans behind your company. So the next question along the same line is, what are some suggestions, or even just a suggestion that you give your clients on the digital side of how they can seem, like a tangible, real human company, like through their Facebook feed?
I think it starts with including yourself in the story. So I started off as a corporate crossover. I like to say I went from Target to THC, so I'm not a typical kind of stoner girl, but I was a corporate stoner in a closet. I started off watching videos of Celeste, actually, talk about marketing, and then I launched the Weed Head, which is my platform that talks about, well, how am I going to be a cannabis executive? Out of nowhere, in 4 months, I had 13,000 followers, and they're like, where are you going to be? I think it starts with telling the story yourself. There are not enough stories, I'm going to take a saying from one of my favorite people, but facts tell and stories sell, ultimately. So I think that the more you're able to put your own story out there, the better, and the more authentic it feels. So it made me want to then follow Celeste's businesses as well, and then that was followed up with great education about how to get started, some of the advocacy piece, because we're all in the community together, and then I was hooked as her consumer, potentially, you know what I mean? So I think that's how social media, to me, and digital space really works, and you can start with creating your own content just by turning it on yourself. Other platforms that I've been at, or I guess the last thing I say, events, I force people in our recession to make a selfie happen. Figure out what your hashtag is. Hashtag Imperious Expo. Do it before you leave. Normally I make people do it right now. Like, take out your phone, do a selfie. Because that's you're telling the story.
Celeste, you want to comment?
I would say that, along with the same lines, is just to humanize yourself. And a lot of my clients with my social media team, we have 7 coordinators, and it's so funny because it can get boring. It can get bland. There's only so much news you can post, so much education you can give, so much of all this. So yes, give those things, that's important, but at the same time, humanize yourself. We're constantly telling our clients, send us photos of you guys working in the office. Send us photos of you guys out at the beach doing, and have your product there. Send us photos of all these types of things to humanize yourself. And I think it's very important too, as Shango was saying, to write your own content. That authorship is invaluable. That SEO that it brings is invaluable. Those links in and out when people rerun your original articles are invaluable. So it takes time. No one likes to write. I don't like to write. But I do, because there's too much value in not. And so, there's too much value in, you lose too much by not. There's too much value in doing it. And so, take the time, write, optimize those articles for SEO. That's important as well. Don't skip that, or you're missing out on a huge portion of it. So yeah, just humanize yourself, and you'll find it makes a big difference.
Cultivation pics. Every time I post a cultivation picture from a dispensary client, I get more engagement than anything, because you and I have been in cultivations, but everybody out there has not. And when they can see behind the scenes like that, and see the baby's room, and the curing and the drying, seeing behind the scenes like that, it's also branding yourself. And make sure you have a professional photographer do it, don't do it with your iPhone. And the other one was, oh my God, I can't remember what I was going to say. The cultivation pics though. Anything with people, bud tender pictures. Show pictures of your display case, because again, what if someone's on the fence about getting their card because they're afraid of what it's going to look like inside? As transparent as you can be is going to help your brand the most.
That's well said. And you know, since so many of us are in the industry, a lot of the things that we all get used to, the end consumer is definitely not used to. I mean, it's old hat now. I mean, heck, I'm breeding, but I remember the first time I saw a male plant giving off pollen. You know, in the early days, when did you ever see that? Because the males were immediately called early on, and the consumer never got to see one. And the first time I saw one, and I, finger flipped in, a pollen one, I'm like, oh my God, nature, right? and you know, if you do that, if you think about what's happening in your shop, whether or not it's a retail shop or an extraction shop, whatever, we're at your place of business, think about what you're seeing that other folks aren't. I mean, we all know how popular and how much shared those big bags of nugs are, that the extractors post. It's just because people their eyes get big and they get all like dreamy about it, right? And so think about what your company's doing that's cool. I mean, it's probably the same things that you geek out at with your own employees at work. Take pictures of that stuff, even corny pictures, and have somebody in there like this. Make your company continue to seem fun behind the scenes. Let's see here. So Celeste. So many companies find great success in co-branding with another company to benefit both. What should a company look for in a co-branding partner?
I definitely think that you need to be able to cross-promote with partners who are in a relevant situation as you are, first of all. And that's one of the things that we love doing at our firm because of the amount of clients we have. We cross-promote them all. And it's great because we will drive traffic to both of them, even more traffic, and get more followers and more engagement because we're cross-promoting. So when you go to cross-promote, look to get companies who are relevant to what you do. Look to engage with influencers who have more followers than you or key followers. Tag them sometimes, use their hashtags, and cross-promote that way. Another thing, if you have a product, do shouts out to dispensaries. You'll see that pays off in the long run. That sort of thing, look for that relevance in co-branding partners.
I don't even think I have anything to add to that because that was a really good explanation. And always make sure you get permission as well. Not all the time, some influencers are really cool with it because if they have a good person behind the scenes keeping track of that, then they'll notice it. But I will tag and cross-promote between brands all the time.
I think there's also an in-store component. Don't forget sort of the retail fundamentals that you see every day in your typical Target or Walmart store walk. You can cross-promote in that way as well. If you have a product that goes in a dispensary, you can make a lot more headway with the number of units you got going out the door if you work with the dispensary itself on promotions specific to that dispensary. And you do so then by following up with the support in the digital space like, hey, we've got something going on in this particular place, 20% off, 25% off, go there now at this particular time. I also recommend getting it coded so that people are able to track how much traffic, additional, incremental, that you may be sending to the store for those type of cross promotions.
So if you're still kind of wondering to yourself, co-branding, I'm not really sure what that is. Where I learned it, I actually learned it from Puff Daddy, right? I mean, hip hop is the original co-branders. You put out an album and then you have all of your friends guest on your songs. So now you buy the one album, but now you're getting tastes of 5 or 7 other artists on that same album. And so now you go buy Jay-Z's album, and now you've been turned on to like 6 or 7 people, and it goes on and on from that. We can do the same thing in cannabis. If you are a grower, do a co-party, a co-branded party with one of your retailers. I mean, heck, Imperious Expo is co-branded all over the place. I mean, I already pitched the Dope Magazine party tonight, right? So we're talking about Dope Magazine from the mic. I'm from the Shaping Fire podcast, so there's a co-brand. So there's all these different ways that as soon as you think about people who in the scene who you would consider allies and who you would like to have your brand mingled with, just go ahead and reach out to them and say, hey, let's do something together and cross-pollinate our markets. And I think we'd all agree that it really works wonders to trade audiences. Let's see. So, so this is an interesting one. So I think we're back to you, Dashita. So, at the state level, what are your favorite places to spend advertising dollars to get brand awareness?
Well, I'm a digital girl, but I do think that the matrix for marketing and the balance across it is very important. So I would say that the biggest spend probably for me is going to be first on cost per action, especially if you're a startup. Cost per action is